A Tunisian court has turned down a request to release presidential election's second round and jailed media mogul Nabil Karoui. After 3 days of workshop, the 22nd session of the Committee for the Eastern Central Atlantic Fisheries is closing today in Libreville. Real Madrid's start of the new season took another disappointing turn on Wednesday as they recorded a sounding 3-0 defeat at Paris Saint-Germain. That's all for our top stories today. Stay tuned for more details in this newscast.
Tunisia's former president Zain al-Abidine Ben Ali has died this Thursday in Saudi Arabia at age 83. Just days after a free presidential election in his homeland, his family lawyers said. Ben Ali fled from Tunisia in January 2011 as his compatriot rose up against his oppressive rule in a revolution that inspired the Arab Spring uprisings abroad and led to a democratic transformation at home. On Sunday, Tunisians voted in an election that featured candidates from across the political spectrum, sending 2 political outsiders through a second round, a vote unthinkable during Ben Ali's era of power. In Tunisia, after the result of the presidential election given on Tuesday declared the 2 outsiders, Nabil Karoui and Kais Saied, qualifying for the second round, eyes were turned to the decision of releasing the businessman Karoui, who is still detained in prison for charges related to money laundering and tax evasion.
In the scenario where Mr. Karoui is elected, there is the possibility that there will be a release decision and there he can take the oath and the process continues. Or on the contrary, if there is going to be a blockage, finally, maybe the possibility is to go to pronounce the vacancy of the presidency and go therefore again to elections of exceptions.
La vacance de la présidence et aller donc à encore une fois des élections d'exception.
The third appeal made by his lawyer was also rejected on Wednesday by the instruction judge, stating a lack of jurisdiction in this case. On the other hand, Kais Saied, arriving ahead after the first round, explained his call by the will of the Tunisian to renew the political face of the country. Running as an independent made him connect to the people with his explanatory campaign, which enabled him to make a difference, he said.
Nabil Karoui played on people's emotions. Kais Saied did nothing. And what hurt him in his place is he did not run an election campaign. Only TV shows. The people want to try something new. Young people cannot vote again for failed political experiments. That's why we had Kais Saied and Nabil Karoui.
As far as I'm concerned, these candidates arrived at the right time. The right man in the right place. Those who governed us before, I did not see them as politicians. They do not look like politicians because a real policy must have issues to defend. The winning candidate will be appointed to the office for a 5-year term. Tunisia's president has control over defense, foreign policy, and national security for the well-being of its population, reacting positively to the results so far. The 22nd session of the CICEF has come to an end today in Libreville. Working groups addressed issues related to illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing.
CICEF is a working group that has been initiated by FAO to help countries manage and protect the fisheries resources, fisheries sector. We know how important the sector is in the region. In my country, the Gambia, fisheries, employed over 300,000 people, either directly or indirectly.
Participants were also tackling the development and implementation of landscaping plans, the management of vulnerable ecosystems in relation to data collection, the socio-economics, environment made, and recommendation for better management of the small-scale fishery sector.
It is really a very good session because no one country has all it takes for you to manage your marine ecosystem. But with this kind of meetings, you meet, you discuss, you share ideas, and then you see how best you can cooperate and collaborate in the management of our marine resources.
The participants thanked the FAO and all those involved in organizing a holding session. They also appreciated the government and the Gabonese people for their respective contribution for the success of the session. The event closed on 19 September 2019.
Juggling between school demonstrations and speeches in the capitals of the region to call for saving the planet, Liana Mugerwa is one of those young people inspired by the now famous Swedish environmental activist Greta Thunberg, 16 years old. If adults are now ready to take the initiative, I and other children will show them the way. Why should I just watch while environmental injustices are unfolding before my eyes? Said Leah last week in Kigali, where her speech on the climate emergency earned her a standing ovation. Back in Kampala, she says the Ugandan government's inaction on Greta Thunberg's environmental issues and sit-ins in front of the Swedish parliament has prompted her to hold weekly strikes at her school. Leah is part of the Fridays for Future Youth movement initiated by Greta Thunberg, who this week received the Amnesty International's Ambassadors of Conscience Award. The girl is behind a campaign to urge the city of Kampala to ban the use of plastic bags and to warn of the risks of deforestation and prolonged drought and floods attributed to climate change. Originally from Mukono district in the central region, whose forests have been decimated in recent decades due to the expansion of the neighboring Ugandan capital, she organized her first environmental protest on a Friday in February this year in a suburb of Kampala. Now a group of young people join her every Friday, missing a school day, to strike.
Real Madrid had a poor performance on their visit to PSG at Parc des Princes and couldn't do better than a 3-0 loss. PSG didn't even need Neymar, Cavani or Mbappe to score 3 times, and the French side proved that Real Madrid's issues are very real. Real Madrid's problems are also related to basic tactics. PSG had 3 players to go after Casemiro and Toni Kroos because James, who is playing well and shouldn't be blamed, was deployed as an attacking midfielder. Needless to say, the French side just dominated Casemiro and Kroos, who couldn't control the game nor create chances for their teammates. It is clear that Real Madrid don't have a deep midfield at the moment. Madrid's only solid performance this season was against Celta on the season opener. Madrid need to turn things around very soon. Otherwise, this will be a very, very long season. In the vicinity of the Akanda and Pongara National Parks in Gabon, spanning 540 and 929 square kilometers, respectively, we can find 25% of Africa's protected mangrove area, a true treasure but endangered. With the roots rising above ground in looping, arching shapes in adaptation to the low oxygen soils of subtropical coastal areas, just look at a mangrove and it's clear that this is unlike any other forest type. But other aspects of these forests are less obvious, starting with their importance for storing carbon dioxide and keeping it out of the atmosphere.
Non, il n'y a pas de politique de préservation proprement par les mangroves.
There is no official strategy that has been implemented to protect the mangrove in Gabon. It's like it's been done in Guinea, Kenya or Brazil. Regulations have to be created, especially in urban areas.
Comme c'est le cas au Brésil. Il faut qu'ils réfléchissent beaucoup sur des lois qui permettent de préserver ces milieux-là. Ce qui concerne les mangroves, surtout en milieu urbain, proprement orienté mangrove, comme c'est le cas par exemple en Guinée-Conakry, au Kenya, ou bien comme c'est le cas au Brésil. Il faut qu'ils réfléchissent beaucoup sur des lois qui permettent de préserver ces milieux-là. Ce qui concerne les mangroves, surtout en milieu urbain.
Research has shown that mangroves account for only 3% of global forest cover. However, they happen to be the most carbon-rich type of forest in the tropics. This means that mangrove loss can have a large effect. Up to 10% of global carbon emissions from deforestation has been attributed to mangroves. When trees are harvested and die, whether they are burned or eventually rot, their stored carbon is released in the atmosphere. Because of their importance to the carbon cycle and climate, researchers have been investigating the structure of these forests from the ground, air, and space. Information on the height of mangrove canopies can help scientists estimate things like the total amount of biomass in a forest. That information, in turn, can be used to get more precise estimates of how much carbon is locked up in the mangrove, and how land cover changes are affecting where that carbon ends up. The mangrove forests are not the same everywhere. Forests across Africa and around the world contain mangroves of various species and structures, with various capacities for storing carbon. Air and growth-based data are important for helping researchers estimate total mangrove ecosystem carbon stocks in Gabon and around the planet.
A Tunisian court has turned down a request to release presidential election's second round and jailed media mogul Nabil Karoui. After 3 days of workshop, the 22nd session of the Committee for the Eastern Central Atlantic Fisheries is closing today in Libreville. Real Madrid's start of the new season took another disappointing turn on Wednesday as they recorded a sounding 3-0 defeat at Paris Saint-Germain. That's the end of our newscast of the day, but keep watching Gabon 24 for further news.